This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Be first, be daring, and be different. To always strive to be a winner, have the guts to do something no one else has done. Have the tenacity and perseverance to be daring in reaching my dreams and be unique. Valeria Teles interviews Khalid, the author of Rise Above Disruption, a journey of self-realization that will motivate, inspire, and give you hope to find your own Zen. Khalid is a tech executive with a 30-year career in growing and managing multi-billion-dollar telecom companies in North America, Africa, and Asia. Agent of change with a dual master's degree in coaching and consulting for change from the University of Oxford and EHC of Paris. Khalid is an adjunct faculty on digital strategy and transformational change at the American University in Cairo. He volunteers as a motivational and career mentor at the Founders Institute, a global startup incubator. He is the author of Rise Above Disruption, a nonfiction documentation of his successful journey, as it was evolving, of coping with 5 simultaneous life traumas within 24 months that included surviving bankruptcy, divorce, and cancer. A self-claimed true global citizen who lived in 8 and visited 60 countries. The book is a self-help, motivational, and hope-finding book that will inspire readers to see happiness that always exists within themselves. His approach in applying his knowledge and experience is to practice and promote love of self and others. Strive to change and transform from the status quo to the higher, better, truer version of self and others, to rejuvenate relationships with family, friends, and loved ones, to find and nurturing one's passions, to face and pacify one's fears and insecurities, and to motivate and encourage self and others in the quest to see hope and happiness in everything we do. In this age of urgency, we seldom stop to think and evaluate our lives, to identify the parts of our personality that need to evolve to reach a better version of ourselves. Khalid helps people synchronize their hearts, minds, and souls in the effort to cope and accept the never-ending changes all around them. Meet Khalid at khalidkhorshid.com. Here is the interview with Khalid Khorshid.
In your own words, who is Khalid Khorshid?
I'm actually an agent of change. I am a career technology guy who is a converted engineer. I started my studies loving computers and loving the things that I did with them. And then I worked in a field where we loved our technology. And then halfway through my career, I realized that everybody, all the companies are actually doing things for customers. So we should really be focusing on customers, not on computers and solutions and technology. And halfway through my career, I realized that I only win or do great achievements because of the teams that work with me. So I started to focus on people and how to motivate them and how to listen to their to understand the buttons to push to motivate them and and make him part of a success story. And then when I became an executive, my company wanted to send me to an executive master's. So obviously the first thing that would come to mind is like, okay, I want to go to Stanford or Harvard. And they said, well, Khaled, you have an MBA from Michigan. What? You should go to study change. And they sent me to the University of Oxford to study change. And I had no idea I really didn't study any humanistic sciences like psychology and sociology and all these things. And it was an eye opener for me. So I am a converted engineer in the sense that I now really care about people, care about customers for companies that I manage, and care about people around me, whether family or colleagues or friends. And because of my studies and because of my DNA, I found out that for the last 30 years, I've been actually helping people change, from simply helping them reaching a big milestone at work, or helping my son, get his SAT done and attend college, and how he can adapt his routine so he can study better, or helping my friend cope with loneliness after his divorce. So in a nutshell, I'm a change coach, or a change mentor, if you would.
I love that. And in your book, you also mentioned something about, in the end, at the end of our lives, that's what will matter, is the relationships we had, not how many hours we spent in the office. So that really caught my attention. It's so true. We tend to focus on business, thinking about only results and numbers and all that, most of us, and not in relationships. And that's the most important thing. I agree 1,000%. And regarding change, why do you think we resist to change so much?
The human mind was created to help protect the person. So God created our brain to help protect us. And the default setting, if you would, of the brain is to think of the worst case scenario. Right. Always, in any situation, especially if it involves change. And let's define change. Change is anything from, flipping the light switch and the light bulb doesn't go on. That's a change, because it usually goes on. Or going down to your car and you find a flat tire. That's a change. Or you wake up in the morning and you realize there's no water to take a shower. That's a change. So, or God forbid, you hear of some loved one passing away. So all these are changes. So our brain is programmed to, the first thing to do whenever a change happens is to think of the worst case scenario to protect us. So if I tell you, unfortunately, we have to let you go because the company is shutting down, your first instinct is not going to be, oh, that's great. I'm now going to have a new career to create my Fit for Joy website and service and have a great podcast. Isn't it?
True, so true.
The first thing is going to be doom and gloom, obviously. So change is, and it's in nature of humans to resent change. We, by default, like to have the familiar. We like to do the things that our parents did and our grandparents did and what we used to read and what we see in history books. And I'm going to go off on a limb here, not that I'm a religious guy, but actually from my studies and my research on change, and I'm actually preparing my PhD there. And I'm going to go on a limb here and say that the main essence of all the religions that there is in the world, you name it, from Buddhism to Christianity to Judaism to Islam to whatever religion, whatever your God is, whoever your God is, it's actually about accepting to change. Whenever you read and you decide to become a Buddhist, for example, and you start to read about Buddhism, or you decided to become a Christian, you start to read about Jesus and all the learnings, it's actually about accepting to change from what you used to do or that you used not to do into this new religion. So change is at the core of really our mission in life. Accepting the change that is.
You mentioned God. So I guess I have to ask you this question. What, where, and who is God to you?
To me, God is the one God who created Adam and Eve and um, sent Moses and Jesus and Muhammad to us. We call it in Islam Allah. It's God. That's my what I believe is the superpower.
How do you define happiness these days? What is to be happy to you?
I am so glad you brought this up because I have part of what I do also is I try to help people see happiness. So in fact my practice or my mentorship practice, I call it change for happy. Happiness is such an interesting phenomenon, and I actually was doing a lot of readings about it. Happiness exists in each one of us, inside of us. In fact, when we are born, the day we are born, we're very happy. I mean, as long as we're fed and with our diapers are clean, we're happy. And then most of us also, after whether long or short life, we also die happy. Most of us, talking about the majority who does good, does good in life and make people around them, leave a legacy and stuff. You also die happy. The interesting part is, in between the two stages, we tend to lose focus and try to search for happiness. And we travel and we marry and then we divorce and then we buy stuff and then we're never happy. I think happiness is inside of us. We just need to see it. So one of the things I really look when people come in, whether I mentor them at my work or I do it with friends and family or I do it with patients. When you're happy because of 3 or 4 things are working well in your life. Your relationships, whether it's relationships with your boss or your subordinates or your colleagues or your everybody at work. When you're happy with your relationships at home, with your friends. When you're happy with your career, so career, relationships, passions. You gotta have a passion. You're not gonna work and make money and then spend it only on food and cars and houses. You need to have a passion, and finding passion, looking at your relationships and making sure they're really optimized and rejuvenated, and looking at your career and giving yourself your best effort or your best the job of your dream is really what makes a person happy at the end. You're prosperous, you make money, or you're doing something that you love. You on the weekend you go and play golf or shoot pool, whatever is your passion, or play sports. And you have very decent relationships with everybody around you, whether your family, your spouse, your kids, etc. So happiness is inside, and it's about really finding it, seeing it really in the little things that happens to you every day. And that's the challenge. You always think, if I buy this new Mercedes, I'll be happy. Well, actually, the problem is it's a transaction. And it's, first of all, obviously, I'm going to say a cliche. Happiness is in the journey, not the destination. So, it's really about enjoying what you're doing and living in the now and not worrying about the future nor reminiscing the past.
So when you speak of passion, does it relate to purpose somehow?
Yes, of course. Well, it relates to, it's not the purpose. Purpose is it's a much bigger term. Purpose is actually, it's a very tough question when I ask someone that I first meet who comes to me and, wanting some guidance on happiness or finding a better way to accept changes in his life, his or her life, is that exact question. What's your purpose in life? Why are you here for? And it's a tough question. Some people actually ask me for time to answer this question. My purpose in life is actually to live, to love, learn, and leave a legacy. I have to love. I have to have someone to love. I mean, obviously, I love my kids and I love my mom and I love my brother. But having someone as a relationship to love is very important to me. learning every day is a must. If I don't learn, I'm very bored. I need to learn something new. And that's probably why halfway down my career, I started to look into new things other than just technology. And leaving a legacy is really the key here. I think of my book, Rise Above Disruption. It's just a documentation of an era of my life and what I learned from it and what I learned so far. And I take it as a legacy that years after I'm gone, people can say, this guy, he had something to say. So purpose it's a much bigger umbrella than passion.
Yeah,
you have to have passion, obviously, but we have to have passion for this purpose. I mean, I have passion for having love in my life. I have to have passion for learning. I mean, if you don't have passion for learning, you're not going to learn anything. And leaving a legacy is very hard because you really need to walk the talk and do things that it's not just words. You have to have deeds and actions.
What do you think the purpose of the human experience is?
One of my absolute mentors or people that I look up to, and I had the chance to meet him twice. Once when I was a young guy, one young consultant at Accenture in Chicago. He came and had a speech in our office, and the second time was 20 years later in my office in Lagos, Nigeria, believe it or not. And it's the late Stephen Covey. I adore this man. I learned so much from him. Obviously, I read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And when I first saw his presentation, it blew me up. It blew me completely off the knowledge I had. And one of the absolute quotes that define our purpose in life, and I always think of it even during times of hardship, is that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're actually are spiritual beings having a human experience. And this is such a profound definition. So to me, life is really a journey of testing, of exploration. I think we are spirits that was created by God, and very sophisticated spirits from Him, and then were brought to Earth to live this humanistic life for some period. Some of us will follow His guidance. Some of us will not. It's really up to the person. And we're here to be happy and enjoy our journey and appreciate all the things that God has done for us, and make sure that we pay it forward. Whatever we got as gifts from this life is to pay it forward.
What is the meaning of freedom to you? What is to be free?
Wow. Freedom. I think freedom is the freedom of thought. Being free of how you think and what you believe in is at the core of freedom. It's not about being captivated in a place or being able to go wherever you want to go. It's freedom is really about having the option to think, read, and make up your own mind.
Especially if you can live in the present moment, right? All the time. That sounds like freedom to me.
This is so tough. I tell you what, this is one of the hardest things to do. Obviously, honestly. You are at the happiest when you live in the now, when you're thinking of the now, because there's no expectations. The problem with life, and I, we would talk about this in the second section about my book. The problem is with expectations. You have expectations of something and it doesn't happen, then you're disappointed. When you're living in the now, so you're talking to me right now as we speak, I have no expectations, or I don't know what you're going to say next. So I'm happy. I mean, and I'm not thinking of the past. I'm not thinking what happened to me 6 hours ago at the doctor's office, which was not a happy moment for me, because I'm just thinking of what I'm doing right now. And I'm not being concerned about the future and whether I'm going to have money to pay for my kids' college next month or not, because I'm not thinking of the future. So really, you are always at your happiest, thinking of what you're doing right now.
So you wrote the book, Rise Above Disruption, a journey of self-realization that will motivate, inspire, and give you hope to find your own Zen. So 2 initial questions. How did you become a writer, and what was the inspiration and intention of writing this book?
I didn't plan to be a writer. I did not have an intention to write a book. What happened to me is I went through 5 simultaneous traumas in my life in the span of a year. And as a consequence, I found myself living alone because my kids were in college in the US, and I was alone because my one of the disruptions, my wife asked for a divorce, and we were divorced, so I'm alone. And then I was diagnosed with cancer, and I was really sitting home because of the economic condition. I had to shut down my company, so I didn't have a lot of work to do. Well, except preparing for teaching at the American university. So I really had plenty of time in my hand, and I had a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings racing down my brain and down my heart, and I just started to write my thoughts, simply because I did not start writing them, just to be honest. I started to record them, and I started to speak to my recorder, and I started to say what was going on in my mind, and actually was also a way for me to remember to log down what I was feeling physically. And that was something my doctor was asking for it. And then long before you know it, I had something like 50 pages written, or 50 pages of content. And I was talking to a friend of mine one day, and she's like, wow, why don't you transcribe them and maybe write a book? Yeah. And that's what happened. Yeah. I had a couple of people in my life. My best friend, and I had someone I was dating and I was actually engaged to, and part of her getting to know me, she asked me a lot of questions about those traumas, and I, instead of just speaking it to her, I also recorded it. So she was very curious. She asked me a lot of good questions, and I had a lot of answers, especially about feelings and about thoughts, etc. And I would record them, and then I would go home and type them up. Yeah. Next thing you know, I have a book. and it hit me, really, honestly, Valeria, it hit me when they sent me the link, an email with a link to my Amazon page. Like, holy cow, I have a book on Amazon.
Right. It was part of the journey, Khaled.
It was part of the journey. Yes, it was actually a part of the healing. I would say it was also an eye opener to me. The eye opener was in the fact that I would write something as it happens. One of the interesting things about this book is you will read me talk about a painful situation as the painful situation was taking place. It was not after the fact. So I wouldn't be, writing about what happened to me last night or a week ago. I actually, at some point in time, I was typing, and my tears would actually covering my keyboard because it was happening. And that was the cool thing, that if I didn't write it there and then I wouldn't capture the feelings. And then later on, when I would talk about the similar or insights about the same topic later on in the book, I would also look at it from a different perspective. So you find an interesting mix of real online feelings, and then later on insights and reflections on those feelings.
And I love that you added the word healing. Yeah, so it's part of your healing journey.
It is part of my healing journey. I realized that later on. Actually, I didn't say to myself in the beginning, "Hey, KK, part of your healing, you should start writing about what you're feeling." No, I just happened. it is really an organic way for one man to deal with his traumas, and it was documented as it was happening, and it was not done in any scientific or pre-planned way.
I have here some of the insights that you had in your book, in passages that caught my attention, some phrases. A line that you wrote says, "Being sad is a strength, as you require courage to shed tears. It is not how we are conditioned to think." So talk to me about crying and this idea of not crying or crying being a weak thing.
A friend of mine from college called me up the other day, and she said, Khaled, the reason I love your book is because you openly wrote about crying. And I said, why? Corey, why? I was really talking about what I'm feeling. She said, because at the bottom of it, you're a Middle Eastern man, and Middle Eastern men are macho. And you're an executive in a very high profile industry. So, and you're a CEO. So it really takes a lot of courage to talk about that you were crying, and then you couldn't feel, you don't have any problems writing about this publicly. Actually, first of all, I didn't think of that at all. I didn't think of that I'm a Middle Eastern man and that I'm macho. I know that, but many people feel that, many men especially, feel that crying is a weakness. I think it's you're bound to do it, especially when you're faced with traumas like the ones I did, especially that involves your health and not knowing if you're going to survive or not. I do believe that being vocal about your emotions, as whether as a woman or a man, is very important for yourself, for your own sanity, and for your own honesty with yourself, as well as with your loved ones and people close to you. So I don't have an issue with that. Obviously, one of my friends, actually, he's a lawyer. He's a big shot lawyer. He called me up a month ago, he was one of the first to buy my book. And I did not know that he bought my book. And he's a lawyer for one of the top 10 Fortune 100 companies, very macho, suit all day, corporate jet type of guy. And he was really, really almost in tears and very emotional. And I'm like, wow, Kareem, what's going on? He said, you just pressed the right button when I was reading your book, and I started to cry because I was going through a lot of traumas in my life. I lost my parents. He lost his parents in the span of 2 months, and plus of a lot of other traumas in his life. And he's like, I wanted to cry, and then here is you. I never thought that you would be writing a book like this, and you're openly saying, yes, I was crying. What the hell?
Yeah.
So it was like it's like the feeling of being liberated of one of his friends who thought he would be as shying away from crying or being emotional, saying, no, go for it, man. And it made the book made him feel good, and he started to open up to his emotions, and that's great. And if this book helped people do that, that's enough for me.
Another topic you have in your book that's very important, I believe, is friendship. So you say friendship is an opportunity to love, to learn about yourself, to mature as a human being, and to open up to the full experience of life. You don't choose family, but you choose friends.
When you realize that your friends are, let me qualify this statement. If you're friends from kindergarten to high school, especially if you have friends that last with you that whole time, yeah. You sort of don't choose them either. But but you have the choice. True. If you don't like someone, you just don't see him. But friends are really a reflection of who you are. and who you're really comfortable with, and they're the only people that you can actually be at ease with and be yourself. And if you're fake with your friends, then you're fake with yourself. If you have multiple faces and you have this group of people, you show them that you're whatever, you're the rich dude, the yuppie, the whatever, and the other group, you're the macho. Whatever. If you're not the same person everywhere you are with your friends, then you're cheating yourself, and you're not being honest with yourself to begin with. And they are the mirrors. Everybody needs a mirror to show them how they really look like. And true friends are the ones that actually say it the way it is, no matter how big you become. And it's sad sometimes to find friends who life goes to their heads, especially if they become rich or become famous or powerful, and they don't see this, and it goes to their heads, and they stop listening and refuse to listen to their friends' feedback. So having friends is very obviously the support and being there for you and helping you through tough times and good times is obvious benefits for friends. But I'm talking about the hidden gems of friends that we sometimes fail to see or forget, maybe with the days. Is that they are really, they don't love you just for a purpose. It's not because you have the cool house they love you because they want to come and hang out in your cool house. No, even if you have a shack, they would be there for you. True friends. So yeah, they are part of the happiness. So that's why the cornerstones of happiness, one of them is relationships, and the core one of relationships is friends.
There are so many messages in your book. Another one that's close to my heart, because this is something I really believe in. You say in your book, your love for yourself supersedes any other love, even to the people closest to you.
I realized that when I was deep down, and I always call it the dark tunnel. And I'm laying down on my back. I think this is how I wrote it. I'm laying down on my back in a dark tunnel. I have no idea how I got here. I have no idea what's the way out. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And at that very moment, and I've been through these moments, no other love supersedes your love for yourself. Because you said, I want to live. I don't really care about anything else.
Talk to me now about something that you mentioned earlier in your book. It might be the biggest insight. It might be. It's extremely powerful. You say, expect nothing and accept anything. So talk to me about expectations and how can we get there, accepting everything.
The whole point about disappointments is a mismatch or a gap between what you expect and reality. So they always taught us in management consulting schools, under promise and over deliver.
Yeah.
So
right.
the problem that you have the reason I wrote the book, the title of the book is Disruption, is because when traumas happens to you and you think you are moving on a path, let's talk about career, for example. You are the super duper, VP or director, or you have a path in your mind, and or you've planned it in your head that you're going to become a CEO in the next 10 years. That's a path you put in your heart. And I'm all for setting objectives and being, challenging oneself to reach to the stars. And actually, I used to say always to my kids, aim to the stars. Worst thing that could happen is you're going to land on the moon.
Yeah.
So
right.
I'm all for that. However, when anything happens to that path, to that life, whether you get laid off, or you've got passed for the promotion, first thing that's going to happen is disappointments. Like, oh my God, I'm off this path. Why? And the point I'm making in the book is path is subjective. It's really an opinion. It's your opinion that your next move is to be a VP. Well, no, it doesn't mean that way. So setting, and that also applies to patients. I was giving a speech to ladies who had breast cancer the other day in a big hospital, cancer hospital, and I was talking about expectations. This very exact point, and I said what I started to realize is some doctors I go to, and some actually family members, in an effort to try to be nice to me, they would be setting my expectations so high that when reality hits, I'm actually disappointed more than if you would have told me the pessimistic view of what could happen or what could, being at least realistic. At least realistic. I mean, if I will be okay if you be a bit pessimistic. So when reality hits and it's better, I would be pleasantly surprised. I'd love to be pleasantly surprised. And unfortunately, one of my doctors, my cancer doctors, was doing this to me all the time. And I said to him, enough. I really question now everything you tell me, because, he said, no, it's going to take you. No, it's only 3 sessions. It's really simple, and you're not going to feel anything. And then when it happens and I realize, like, no, it's more than that. And no, it's going to take X period of time and I'm feeling, X and Y and Z and I'm tired. And I am disappointed. So expectations from situations or from people is the mother of all disappointments. And my motto now is the thing that makes me happy and makes me at least zen is, if I expect nothing from anyone or any situation, I will be happy, because whatever happens, I will accept, because I have no expectations.
Right.
Yeah,
and you use the word zen, right? Because that brings inner peace and calm, right? Another point you made is about the ego. You say, I think you sent this insight to me, controlling and beating your ego are reasons for disconnect. So what is the ego, in your opinion?
Ego is your self-image, your own image of yourself, and your self-importance, and how seriously you take yourself, or how less seriously you take yourself. And one of the issues with ego is that, especially when you live a life that has no disruption, that has no more major traumas, which, it's something that would be lucky to have, we fail to realize that this is a great positive and something that we have to thank God for it every day. But we don't realize this until we hit traumas and we hit disruption. And the ego, the more we live and we go through life and we get promoted or get more money or get more happy moments and big number of friends and become popular, for example, the more your ego starts to build what I call blind spots. And blind spots is really, it reduces your ability to be paranoid. And being paranoid is very important, because most of the successful people I know of are paranoid. It's a well-known fact that Steve Jobs is paranoid. You give me any of the billionaires that we know of, tech billionaires or business people, and I'm not saying paranoid in the bad sense. I'm saying paranoid in the sense that they think of all the possibilities, and they always evaluate the risks of each possible scenarios. Problem with ego is that it because you're so caught up in your successes, and you're so caught up in the levels that you're reaching. When you start to think like, oh, let me evaluate what bad could go wrong, your ego stops you from doing this. Like, nah, don't worry about it. Come on, you're gonna get promoted, you're gonna get more money. So you start to spend money, for example, buy a big house, and you're asking yourself, do I really need this big house? And your ego says, oh, of course you need this big house. Come on, you have big parties and la 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 la. And instead of shutting up, and you start to think more rationally and say, oh, maybe I should save money instead of paying this extra in a bigger house. Maybe I should put money in the bank. So this is an example of how ego can be an obstacle or not an obstacle, but an accelerator of disruption.
Oh, yeah. Oh, accelerates, actually.
Accelerator, yeah. And this is what happened to me, honestly.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I realized that because I did not have experience in bad times that happened to me, I didn't know better, but I didn't spend time stepping back and seeing what possibly things could go wrong, and so I can plan accordingly. Yeah. And my ego was feeding that lack of planning and lack of thinking.
You talk about this 3 different voices within ourselves. You call the voices inside. So the mind, the heart, and the soul. How do we know the difference, Khaled?
I started to know the difference probably when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I'm a Libra man, and Libras, we really like to. We are very emotional, but at the same time, we like to use logic. So I realized, and my friends realized, that sometimes it takes me a while to make a decision. And I started to think of why is that, and I realized because I sort of weigh the pluses and minuses, and I realized that there are voices inside of me. One that said, "Yeah, go ahead, man, buy it, buy that, that toy, buy it. You love it." Yeah. And then another voice would say, "Why? You have just one like it. It's just a different color." And this amplified during my trauma time when I was alone and I was writing about my feelings, and it was really clear to me that, and I started to read a lot about the change, obviously the change science that I started to learn. I realized that reading about the consciousness and subconsciousness and the brain and the role of the brain in our mind, our body, I realized that no, there are distinct voices, and I can tell whenever I am in a change situation or a trauma situation or something bad is happening, the things that jump to my mind about fear and doom and gloom and what am I going to do? This is going to be the end of the world. This is my brain doing its role of protecting me and giving me a worst case scenario. And then if I let myself think about all these things and then pause for a while and start to listen to my heart is always, I am a true opponent or fan of the heart. One, because I'm a passionate person, and love is a very important part of my life. I love and passion and people. But I realized that scientifically, the heart as an organ has on its external surface the same cells as the brain. So actually, there are proofs that you are thinking with your heart, that actually your heart makes decisions. Literally makes decisions because it thinks. So I tend to listen to my brain, but at the end, let my heart decide, because the beautiful thing about the heart is it actually it looks at the emotional side and the passionate side of any situation. And because passion is so irrational, which is completely the other extreme from the brain, who is very logical and very, and if you read about Frank and Teddy's arguments in my mind during the darkest hours, you will understand what I'm saying. So they make a good balance between the two, But at the end, in most cases, I use my brain to to give me the logical reasons, but actually follow my heart when it comes to making decisions. They are in my brain. How to answer your question? How do you know which one is talking to you? First of all, know for sure that you're not what your brain is telling you you are. So you are not. If you are faced with a major change in your life, and all you're thinking of is negative thoughts and doom and gloom, and what am I gonna do? And you start to panic, and you start to be in a state of hopelessness and depression. Know for a fact. Take a breath. Take a breath. This is your brain doing its job. This is not what you are. This is not who you are. This is your brain giving you all the bad scenarios, giving all the worst case scenarios. Then you need to ask your heart, what really makes me happy here, and you start thinking of the things that would make you happy and passionate about the situation that you're in. A good example for you is that when you know you are in a good place is when there is a synchronization, or that you're in sync between what you think, what you feel, and what you do. And that's these are the three voices inside of you. If they argue, that's fine. But if at the end of the day they're in sync with what you're gonna do and what you're doing, and you feel good about it, then you won. You're on the right track.
You also say, what you seek, it's also seeking you. That's a powerful statement that I believe in too. And a question that I have for you, it's about hope. Do you see hope, faith, and trust the same way, or they are somehow different?
Hope, faith, and trust. They're actually different sides of the same coin.
Right.
Except there's only two sides of a coin, but
Right.
but they're so linked together. Hope, first of all, hope is at the core. I mean, without hope, you wouldn't want to open up your eyes in the morning and go about your life. I mean, the messages of God to any religion is about hope. You know, it's so hope is at the core. So if you are depressed, or if you are passing through a bad patch of your life, you will see hope. I mean, the whole point of helping you is to help you see hope in whatever you're doing, in whatever your context. Faith is a supporting, very important and supporting factor for finding hope. Some people do not believe in God and do not believe in, I mean, that's their right. They believe in nature, for example, that there's no superpower, fine. But if they have faith in even if the superpower is the universe, doesn't have to be God, that we talk about in the different religions. If they believe in the universe and they believe in the power of the theory of attraction and of karma, and that is definitely supporting belief in finding hope. And so they are very important. They are part of the same concept, if you would, and they help me throughout my traumas, my disruptions.
So we're almost at the end. I have a lot of lines here. I guess I'll say this one here that I really believe in too. You say, no matter what has happened to you in your life up to this point, you always have the right to smile. That is beautiful, beautifully written, and true to the heart, for sure. So we're almost at the end. Would you like to add anything or read a passage in your book, Khaled?
Read a passage. I actually did not think of that one. This is one homework I used. You asked me in the email. I forgot to do, honestly. But what I want to say is here is this. This is something interesting. I have to say. I wrote this book and I had to send it to my publisher on the 26th of July. And since the 26th of July until now, I actually went through two major disruptions in my life, as profound as the ones I'm writing about in the book. And it has been, yes, and it has been a very interesting and different 5 months or 6 months since. And during my dark moments, during the last 5-6 months, I would actually remember some of the things that I wrote in the book, and it would make me a little bit better. So the point is, I think going through all these changes and knowing all I know about change and knowing all I know about how people react to change, it's the practicing accepting change and going through the journey of coping with the disruptions and the traumas, and it's like driving a car or playing tennis or playing golf. The more you do it, the better it gets. And obviously, each time something happened that is different from never happened to you before is much more profound, and it hurts in a different perspective, in a different way. But you find yourself saying to yourself, even that will pass. And that's really the conclusion. I think I write something similar about it in the last chapter, as saying, I'm ready for anything. Just throw it at me. And I wrote it. When I wrote that, I wrote it as a cheering up message at the end of the book. But little did I know that a few months later I would be actually, grabbing to these words and trying to make them true and live them. So it's a journey that never ends. This is really the points I want to make. Instead of reading from the book, I'm just saying, if you have the chance to read this book, and I'm probably planning on a part 2 in a different format, not in this format, you're gonna realize that it's never gonna end, and we live now in an age of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19, and it never ends, and all the stuff that's happening in Washington, and all the unbelievable turn of events that happened to us the last 12 months alone. That's not gonna stop. So bottom line is, let's embrace change, because the only constant thing in life is change.
Yes, 1,000 times to that truth. Thank you for your work again, Khaled.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
So I have 2 more questions for you.
Please.
If you knew you would lose the body soon, would you make any change in your life or do anything in a different way?
No, I wouldn't do anything different.
No.
Nope.
That means that you are living your purpose,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the last question is, what are 3 things about life you know for sure as of this moment?
3 things about life I know for sure. Number 1, change will never stop.
Yeah, we need to remind that again, right?
That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, things in life that will never... sooner or later, we're going to go back to our original state of being a spirit, right, and leave this world. So this is as they say, there's 2 things, sure things in life: death and taxes.
Yeah, right.
So the second thing is actually leaving this world whenever that is gonna happen. And the third thing is happiness is not in taking. Happiness is actually in giving. And one of the things I've done since I wrote this book is I had actually a difficulty. I had a problem finding a job, and was really interviewing and doing all the things and going into business and And then all of a sudden, I got a job, and a job that came through a network of someone who met me a few years ago, and they just thought of me and called me up, and now I'm the CEO of their company. So I decided to create an initiative on Facebook and on Instagram. On Facebook and on email, called Pay It Forward, and I would ask my 2,000 people network across social media to send me open positions for people, and I would actually ask the remaining of my network to send me their CVs if they're looking for a job and they don't want to be embarrassed saying it in public. So the beauty of being I was just a broker. I just passed the message, a message broker. I don't get them. I don't even know if they got a job or not. I just connect the two together. And the amount of happiness I'm getting from this Pay It Forward initiative, it's really nothing. I mean, I just used the people I know, instead of just writing jokes and sharing some silly photos. I just said, you know what, guys, if you hear of an opening, just send it to me. And I'll pass it to people who are looking for a job, and just amazing how satisfied I'm giving, and how that made me happy. Yeah. And so it's really about giving. It's happiness is about giving. Yeah. That's the third rule or law.
A law of life, right? I love your wisdom. Thank you so much, Khaled.
Thank you so much. Thank you
for your work, your presence. Yeah,
thank you so much, Valeria.
Where can we find more information about you, your books, products, services, and future projects?
Well, it's on my website, khaledkhorshid.com. You can follow my Facebook and Instagram, and I have also an Instagram for my Change for Happy, I would say, practice. And I also have a YouTube channel for Change for Happy, and this is where I started with videos on tips and tricks on finding jobs for different types of people. So I posted a video on startup jobs for those who are interested in joining the .com, the new economy and working in tech startups. Another one I just launched a few hours ago about college graduates, tips and tricks. And also this channel, I will be doing videos, vlogs about change, about relationships, career, and the stuff that you and I are talking about the last hour.
Yes.
So this is where you can actually find a lot about me.
Sounds wonderful.
And they're all on my website, khaledkhorshid.com.
I'll have the link posted on your podcast profile too. Thank you so much again, Khaled, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Khaled Khorshid and his work, please visit khaledkhorshid.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.